Science teacher at the school and a student engaged in activities at least 5 different times.
Did you have sex with your student?
It was the student's mother who caught them in the act.
On the afternoon of November 29th of last year, 2023, the mother of an 18-year-old student at South Mecklenburg High School in Charlotte, North Carolina, checked her son's location using Life 360. Life 360 is a family social networking app which enables friends and family to share their locations with one another. The woman's son was supposed to be at rugby practice, but he wasn't. So she got in her car and tracked him. She followed his GPS signal to a park and recreation area called Park Road Park, where she found his car. Inside the car, she observed her son was with a woman and they were engaged in sexual activity. The horny woman was 26-year-old Gabriela Neufeld, and she was one of the young man's teachers at South Mecklenburg High. The student's mother called the police, who responded to the scene of the crime and took statements from both mother and son. The young man told the cops that the woman with whom he'd just been caught fooling around was his biology teacher and had been since the beginning of the school year in August. He said he had started dating the teacher in October. He said that he and she were a couple. He said that he'd had sex with the teacher on numerous occasions and that they would do it at her home or in his car, which was registered to his mother. Gabriela Neufeld was arrested on the scene and was charged with 5 counts of felony sexual activity with a student. She was released from jail on $75,000 unsecured bond. At a court hearing the day after the arrest, prosecutors asked for the judge to take precautions to restrict the defendant's movements, saying that the victim's mother had reason to believe that Miss Neufeld and her son might flee the area. She said that her son had, in the past, mentioned on more than one occasion moving away from home. The judge ruled that Neufeld would wear an electronic monitoring device and ordered her to have no contact with the teenager with whom she's accused of having sex. The age of consent in North Carolina is 16. Regardless of that, teachers who fornicate with students can be charged with a felony even if the intercourse was consensual. The only exception is if the pair is married. Gabriela Neufeld has been charged with a Class G felony, which carries a maximum penalty of 4 years of incarceration. Her case is still pending.
And according to these court documents, that former employee told authorities that she was in love with that student.
Taylor Boncal was one of the greatest athletes in the history of Woodland Regional High School in Beacon Falls, Connecticut. She was a standout softball and volleyball player, but as a track and field star, she set school records and was named District Female Senior Athlete of the Year in her final season. She was recruited by Stony Brook University and competed in track there before transferring to Central Connecticut State University, where she was not only an athlete but also a Dean's List student. She graduated in December of 2017. During her last year attending CCSU, she worked as a student teacher at Conrad High School in West Hartford. As the conclusion of the fall 2017 semester was approaching, so was her graduation day and the end of her student teaching job. But the young woman was hired on at the school as a full-time track coach, so she would continue working there in the new year. No doubt her impressive athletic credentials helped her to land the gig. That same December, one of her male students, an 18-year-old senior, asked her to give him her phone number. She did so. They started exchanging text messages on December 13th, a little over a week after she was officially hired at the school. The relationship developed as the pair spent time together at Boncal's home in New Britain, just south of West Hartford, where Conrad High is located. On December 25th, the young man came to Taylor's place. For the first time, the two interacted sexually. From that day, they met at her home on multiple occasions for sex over the course of the next few weeks. They apparently never had sexual contact at school. On January 12th of 2018, a concerned parent notified school officials of a possible inappropriate relationship between Boncal and the student. Administrators alerted the New Britain Police Department, which launched an investigation. Taylor Boncal turned herself in to the authorities on February 1st and admitted that she had been involved with the student. She told the cops that the victim was kind to her. She told them that she loved the young man. The student also admitted to the relationship after initially denying it. Even after he came clean, he refused to provide a written statement to authorities, saying that he didn't want Taylor to get in trouble. Taylor Boncal was charged with 3 counts of second-degree sexual assault, which can be classified as either a Class C or Class D felony. A Class C felony is punishable by 1 to 10 years in prison and/or a fine of up to $10,000. A Class D felony carries a potential penalty of up to 5 years of incarceration and/or a fine of $5,000. Although the youngster was of legal age during the time of the affair, prosecutors deemed the encounters sexual assault because Boncal was a teacher at the student's school. The parents of the 18-year-old victim, however, expressed a desire to see the charges dismissed, saying that their son and Taylor were in love. That summer, the court showed leniency towards Boncal by reducing her charges to 4th-degree sexual assault, a Class A misdemeanor, carrying a maximum sentence of 1 year of incarceration. She was granted a special form of probation, however, known as accelerated rehabilitation, which meant that her case would be expunged should she successfully complete the 2-year program. Taylor Boncal was not required to register as a sex offender, but was ordered to have no further contact with her victim. In April of 2017, a tip came into the police department in the city of Ripon, Wisconsin. Ripon is a city of about 8,000 people, about 75 miles north of Wisconsin's capital city of Madison. This tip that came into the police department there in Ripon reported an inappropriate relationship between a teacher at Ripon High School and an underage student. The teacher was 28-year-old Samantha Fitzpatrick. The student, who was male, was 17 years of age. I referred to him as Scott, as his identity has not been made public. The cops opened an investigation, during the course of which they spoke with 2 teachers at the school. Both of the teachers said they had their suspicions about Samantha Fitzpatrick and this 17-year-old kid. Both of these teachers told authorities that they'd seen the teen and Fitzpatrick together often. One of them also said that Samantha and Scott would both be missing from school on the same days and late to school on the same days. One of the teachers disclosed to investigators that about 6 months prior, back in October, a student came to her and told her a story about Scott. This student said that there had recently been a party at a hotel in Oshkosh and that Scott had arrived at the party late. Scott told one student at the party that night that he'd arrived late because he'd been at Miss Fitzpatrick's, where he'd had intercourse with the teacher. After hearing the story, the concerned teacher asked Miss Fitzpatrick about the rumors. Then, apparently, Samantha responded to her colleague with a chuckle and said, quote, "I could see how they would say this." The teacher also informed the investigators that she'd noticed flirtatious behavior between Fitzpatrick and Scott, and that she saw the kid on multiple occasions alone in the classroom with Fitzpatrick. According to the teacher, Samantha would pay close attention to young Scott and tune out the remaining students in the class. Police spoke with Miss Fitzpatrick, who denied she'd been involved with the youngster. Investigators spoke with Scott more than once, and on both occasions, he denied he'd been involved with Miss Fitzpatrick. At one point, the cops asked him about the rumors, and he told them that he was only joking when he told his friends that he'd slept with the teacher. He said that he would sometimes catch car rides with the woman, but otherwise had never been alone with her. He denied ever having sexted with the teacher and said he'd never had a text or phone conversation with her. But police spoke with another student who claimed that Scott and Miss Fitzpatrick had, in fact, quote, done stuff, unquote. Apparently, this other teenager on one occasion had driven Scott to a gas station and dropped him off. According to the young witness, this is where Miss Fitzpatrick later picked him up. The teenage witness claimed that Miss Fitzpatrick and Scott would also rendezvous at the teacher's home and at a hotel. During the course of the investigation, police combed through the electronic communications of both Scott and Miss Fitzpatrick and discovered numerous racy digital messages in which the pair discussed what they wanted to do to one another, as well as what they'd previously done to one another. In the Facebook messages and texts between the two, they discussed role-playing, various sex acts, and more. The digital conversations occurred between November 2016 and May of 2017 and contain messages in which Samantha tells Scott that she loves him, and others where she asks him to send her revealing photos of himself. It seems Fitzpatrick attempted to erase the evidence of her electronic communications with Scott, but police were nevertheless able to retrieve the messages. Also, they checked her phone records and found 67 phone calls from Scott's phone to Samantha's. The abuse occurred over the course of about 6 months, from November of 2016 and May of 2017. Scott was only 16 when the relationship began. Samantha Fitzpatrick resigned from her teaching position that May, just weeks after the police department began its investigation. The police inquiry into the matter continued for some months, and in December of that year, Samantha Fitzpatrick was arrested and charged with 1 count each of sexual assault, child enticement, exposing a child to harmful materials, and obstructing a police officer. The woman faced a potential sentence of 35 years in prison and/or a fine of $10,000 if convicted on all counts. In November of 2018, Samantha Fitzpatrick pleaded guilty to sexual assault of a student by school staff. Charges of child enticement, exposing a child to harmful materials, and obstructing a police officer were dropped. At her sentencing hearing in February of 2019, a victim impact statement written by Ms. Fitzpatrick's teenage ex-lover was read in court.
In a written statement, the male student involved in the case asked the court not to punish Fitzpatrick, saying that 2 years after the fact, he has not been negatively affected in any way by his interactions with her. And while addressing the court, Fitzpatrick said she herself is responsible for her own actions.
The most important thing I have to say is where I would like to begin. And even though they're not present, that's with the victim and his family. Saying the phrase "I'm sorry" seems really trite and empty, but it's a feeling that I've felt every day for the past 2 years. I am ashamed and angry at myself for the pain and stress I've inflicted upon them.
Samantha Fitzpatrick was sentenced to 3 years of probation. She was able to elude serving prison time, but was ordered to register as a sex offender. Jessie Goline Phillips graduated from the University of Arkansas at Fayetteville with a Bachelor's of Fine Arts degree in May of 2015. Just a week after graduating, she married Stephen Matthew Goline, whom she met while attending college. Stephen graduated from the University of Arkansas the year before Jessie did. After college, Jessie got a job teaching art at Marked Tree High School in Marked Tree, Arkansas. Marked Tree is a town of about 2,000 people, well over 100 miles northeast of Arkansas's capital city of Little Rock, just across the Arkansas-Tennessee border. Jessie's career at Marked Tree High School was short-lived though. I'll explain why. In April of 2017, a concerned parent threatened to come to the school and, quote, do bodily harm to Miss Goline because, according to the parent, the teacher was having sex with multiple students. The school's principal began the process of notifying the proper authorities with the school district of the alleged impropriety. While he was doing so, an emotional Jessie Goline came into his office. The woman was crying, and the principal asked her if there was something she needed to get off her chest. Jessie expressed her fear of losing her husband before admitting to her boss that she'd been intimate with students. The principal contacted the Marked Tree Police Department. Subsequently, an investigation into Miss Goline and her activities was opened. The teacher was placed on paid administrative leave pending the investigation. During the course of the police inquiry into the matter, it was revealed that at some point during Jessie's first year of teaching, that was the previous school year of 2015-2016, she began communicating via text with multiple students. These digital interactions all began innocently and eventually became more titillating. The communications led to repeated sexual relations between Miss Goline and 3 students at Marked Tree High, as well as a 4th student from another school. The victims of the abuse were all 18 years of age, but for one. According to Miss Goline, the underage boy led her to believe that he was of age. but she would find out later that he was, quote, way younger than what he told her. Police spoke with all the alleged victims, who all admitted to having copulated with the teacher. The abuse occurred between January and May of 2016, the previous school year. One of the students told the cops that one day, while he was visiting a friend in Jonesboro where Miss Goline lived, she texted him her address and told him to come over. He said he was dropped off by a friend and he had sex with Miss Goline. On another occasion, a student said Miss Goline drove him from Marked Tree to her apartment in Jonesboro, about 40 minutes away, and they had sex twice. Another student was also at her apartment that same night. Jessie apparently wanted both of the young men to stay with her until the next morning, but they convinced her to take them back to Marked Tree that night. One victim, police interviewed at school, told the cops that Miss Goline once commented on how good he looked in class. He said that on one occasion, she sent him a photo of herself wearing thong underwear. He said that before the two had actually been intimate, Miss Goline had once texted him a message saying that she'd like to have sex with him, but he was too young. These shenanigans apparently remained a secret for another year or so. There are no documented instances of sexual abuse which occurred during the following school year of 2016-2017. In November of 2016, roughly 6 months after her extracurricular and extramarital activities had ended, her husband turned 26 years of age, and Jessie wrote the following to him in a now deleted Facebook post. It's Steven's birthday. He's the sunshine of my life. He's the purest, most content, faithful, and caring person I know. Thanks be to God for giving him to me as a husband. You'll always be my friend, babe. Happy 26th. Jessie and Steven were apparently devout Lutherans. Jessie had at one point posted on Facebook about her love of Bible study. Jessie's husband's whereabouts during the time of all of her mischief and misbehavior are unknown. The state police investigation came to a conclusion in September of 2017, about 5 months after it had begun, and Jessie Goline was arrested and charged with 1 count of sexual assault, a Class A felony. She was charged with only 1 count because only one of her victims was under the age of 18 at the time of his encounter with the teacher. If convicted, she could face a possible sentence of 10 to 40 years or life in prison. She was processed and released on $5,000 bond on the same afternoon as her arrest. In March of 2018, Miss Jessie Lorene Goline pleaded guilty to 1 count of sexual indecency with a child and was sentenced to 42 months of probation and was ordered to register as a sex offender. Thank you guys once again for tuning in. Thanks for liking, thanks for commenting, thanks for subscribing, thanks for helping me to grow this channel. For all of you who are longtime subscribers, I especially appreciate you guys continuing to support the channel and continuing to lend me a bit of your time and attention. If you haven't already, please go ahead and like the video and subscribe to the channel and leave a comment if you have any thoughts. I've got a bunch of stories that I want to tell you guys. New content coming soon. Be on the lookout for that. Thanks once again to all of you guys for tuning in. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.